What is the difference between indecent exposure and aggravated indecent exposure? Very simply, indecent exposure is a misdemeanor. It's punishable by a maximum of 90 days in jail, although no one's going to go. It means you've shown your genitals. Aggravated indecent exposure, which is a felony and punishable by up to 2 years in prison, and again, no one's going to go to jail or prison, means that you've shown your genitals and fondled them as well. So the key difference is the one is the showing and the other is the showing while fondling. You've been charged with indecent exposure and you're wondering how bad it is. It's serious and it needs to be handled appropriately. You don't want this on your record. You want to avoid a conviction for indecent exposure or aggravated indecent exposure at all costs. And with the right legal work, that can very often be accomplished. You want to make sure that whatever happens, you're not viewed as a predator or as a creep. There is an undeniable yuck factor that sometimes goes with these cases. And when people commit these offenses and then they look back on them, they're horrified and don't understand where that came from. We need to make sure the court understands that so that you treat it accordingly and treat it as the good person you probably are who made a simple mistake and did something really dumb. Will you be on the sex offender registry for indecent or aggravated indecent exposure? No. The short answer is no. There are exceptions if you flashed or fondled yourself to a victim who was under 13 years of age, then you risk being on the sex offender registry. In other words, if you're driving by the school playground and doing something you shouldn't be, then perhaps you're at risk for it. If you are what's called a sexually deviant person, meaning you've been convicted repeatedly of this kind of an offense, then you risk being on the sex offender registry. But for just about every normal person charged with an IE or an aggravated IE offense, the answer is no. What can a lawyer do in an indecent exposure case? A lawyer can protect your interests, keep you from getting a record, keep you from going to endless counseling and classes, keep you from being perceived as a predator or a creep, explain to the court and everybody else that this was an isolated incident. Most people who commit indecent exposure crimes are under a lot of pressure. Some people get drunk, some people hit walls, some people for reasons unbeknownst to even themselves do something stupid like this. And it happens and they feel horrified when it happens. And when confronted and looking back on the incident in retrospect, they can't believe they did that. We need to make sure the court understands that and that you're treated accordingly.